Today to open up e-commerce is pretty tough, but if you know what you're doing and you take advice from experts, um, how to hire, what to look for when you list products, how to work with PPC, all different aspects. If you really learn well, you do well training and how to do that, you could really build a successful company if you have the right product, obviously.
Welcome back to the Outsourcing Scaling Show. My guest today is Ephraim Ausch. Ephraim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. I am pumped to have you on. I know you have over 8 years of experience in e-commerce. You founded your own boutique online and corporate holiday gift shop called Benevelo Gifts, and then outsourced the company to a specialty co-packer. You now direct the sales depot at Tactical Logistics, helping sellers outsource all their logistic needs and help them focus on their main core of their business, and that is selling their products online. Ephraim's passion is to help others succeed in e-commerce, and we're going to talk all about that. But first, let's take a gigantic step back. What were you like as a kid growing up? Were you a straight A student? Were you a rebel? Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I was not a straight A student ever. I was always looking for opportunities, and definitely entrepreneurship was something that I always looked for. So I never studied college or things like that. I never did well with that. So I just right away went into working for a company that we started their Amazon account going back 8 years ago. I worked there for 2 years, and then I decided to go on my own. And I opened my own Amazon account, sold for a few years. Then I realized that I was very seasonal business. Obviously, Gift Baskets is a Christmas brand. And I didn't have, my overhead was killing me and everything. So I started outsourcing my logistics. Then I hired a VA as well, just to save money with all the data entry and all the listings and stuff that I was doing here, paying someone here, to be able to turn a profit. And we were profitable for 2 years. And then now the last 2 years, I have so much extra time. So I decided to join with my father's company. That's Logistics. So that's what I'm doing for the past 2 years. And the Gift Basket company is just one season a year. That's what I focus on. So before Christmas, I take care of that. I have a co-packer, does everything for me. And that's how I sell it.
I want to hear more about your story. I mean, 8 years is a long time to be in e-commerce. I got into e-commerce in 2009. How did you originally get into e-commerce, and what was it like? Walk us through that first business.
So the first time I started, I was just looking for any job. I just wanted to get into the working field. So I got my first job as a customer service representative for a candy company. So I started picking up phone calls, helping out people with their online orders. And then I worked there for 2 months, getting paid $10 an hour, really nothing. And I asked the owner, like, is there any potential? Is there any opportunity that I could grow? I really want to do something good, like just picking up phones or something like that it's great, but I want to grow. I don't feel like I have growth in that part. So he said like, oh, a year ago we tried Amazon, it wasn't doing well. Maybe try again. So we opened up an account. He had around 3,000 different SKUs on his Shopify account. Was it Shopify? I'm not sure. Maybe it was a Magento. I don't remember what shopping cart he used. He had like 3,000 SKUs from different candies, nuts, and chocolates. So I just started listing every day. I listed like 500 products and no sales. So I was getting really frustrated after like 2 months listing product, not having sales. So I started like asking and researching and started looking at the keywords. Keywords was something. So that's how I started growing into that. After a year, we did $1 million in sales. Once I started working with keywords, Amazon PPC came out at that same time, I think. That really helped out a lot as well. Still the good times with PPC when you just open up a campaign and just knocked it out, had sales, and it was really, the ACOS was amazing. So that was still those years that you didn't have to focus too much on that. And then
So what was your first hire in your e-commerce business?
So my first hire was probably like a half a year into opening my own. That's when I worked out of someone's warehouse. He gave me like free space. We started working out of there. I did everything on my own. And then once we started growing, we had a really good Christmas season. I went and I leased the warehouse, and then I hired my first assistant. to help me with listings and stuff like that. And then that year was a terrible year. I had a very high overhead. And that's when I started realizing I got to do something about it. So I started talking to people, and someone told me, like, you got to outsource, you got to outsource. So like, what? Like, how do I outsource an employee? How do I outsource my company? Like, this is gift basket. This is customized stuff. It's not like something that I could really outsource. That's what I thought. And then someone told me, like, there's co-packers out there. There's VAs out there. So I was completely new to that. And then slowly it took me a year to transition over to a co-packer, and they took care of everything, labeling, assembly, everything. And then the next thing was like, hey, you could outsource your employee. You don't have to pay your $15 an hour for an employee doing the same work. You could pay half the price doing a VA. So I hired a VA at that time, and I trained her how to do things, and it really did well for a while. And I still use one.
Yeah. So what did you learn working with someone in the Philippines or outside the US for the first time? Because for me, that was a shock. When I interacted, when I was assigning work, when I was communicating, what did you learn?
What I learned from it is, in the beginning, like, it was like I trained them to do things, and like I was like unsure, like, is she gonna know what to do? She's not next to me, or he's not next to me. Like, how is that gonna work? Like, and then I started learning, like, hey, you can use Slack, you can use messaging, there's so many different ways how you could just record stuff that you do, your experience, and show it to them. And a lot of them are knowledgeable within the e-com industry. A lot of them did that for a few years. So it took me like probably 3-4 months to get used to that. But once I got used to it, it was amazing. It was just like a breath of fresh air.
I love it. Do you have any bad hiring experiences that you can share? Maybe something related to e-commerce?
Bad hiring experiences. Definitely, I had someone that I hired, and apparently the resume said that she had experience, whatever I was looking for. And when it came to reality, she didn't know anything about anything. So I tried her for 8-9 weeks, and every day she came to tell me, like, oh, this is great, and that I did that and did that. And then I started looking into what really happened, and it was really not the case. So she ended up leaving on her own because she realized that I'm not buying whatever she was telling me. So, and then I hired someone else in the office, and then I used that for a few months, and then I got to know about VAs, and I just changed to VAs, and it was a total different story.
So you have 2 companies now. Can you walk us through the structure of each company? Do you have internal employees? Do you have VAs, freelancers, or do you have managers? Can you walk us through what that structure looks like?
So for my e-commerce company, I have one VA, a co-packer that packs everything. And then basically I have like a outsider company that takes care of basically they get like a small commission, and they run, they're in contact with the VA most of the time, so I don't have to focus on that. So they focus on social media. We're building up our Shopify cart basically to have someone to be able to place orders online themselves. Things like that. So basically we both share them, but I just get a report once a week from my VA to know how everything's going. And then from there, the other company that I use takes care of everything.
I love it. So what, for someone who's trying to get into e-commerce now, or they're trying to grow their e-commerce business, what advice would you give them?
Today, to open up e-commerce is pretty tough, but if you know what you're doing and you take advice from experts, how to hire, what to look for when you list products, how to work with PPC, all different aspects. If you really learn well, you do well training and how to do that, you can really build a successful company if you have the right product, obviously.
Let's talk about logistics. I feel like it's not the sexy thing to talk about. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs kind of ignore that part of the business. Why is it so important? And what are some of the mistakes that you see people making?
There's a lot of mistakes that people make. We could go into a lot of different areas of that, but the main mistake is people say, like, hey, I have my own warehouse, I have my own people. I don't need to outsource my logistics. And then I explain to them, like, do you know your overhead clearly, what's your overhead for having all the employees, getting containers in from China, unloading them, palletizing, labeling them, prepping them? Like, do you know what that costs? And it's like, oh, whatever. Like, they don't know really roughly what it costs them per unit. So like, so you're selling on Amazon, you think you're making 30% or 40% profit, for example. And the cases that you don't have, that's not the case, because when you utilize a whole warehouse and you fill them up, a full warehouse, then you can maybe know every single square foot what it costs you. But if you're not full and you have to hire temps to unload containers, things like that gets costly, and you don't really know your costs. So what I say is outsource it to a third-party logistics company that takes care from A to Z. We do that. There's other companies that do that. And basically, you know your cost exactly on the cents, what it costs you to import a product, label it, get it into Amazon, or if it comes ready labeled, what it costs you to get product into Amazon. So that's what I really suggest people really looking into the overhead. If they don't know it, then really crunch numbers with a third party, see if that makes sense for you, and then make that change. Automatically, you have so much more time in your day to build your company, build your brand, hire more people, freelancers or VAs, to grow your company, get new products, get new categories. And I think it's a huge warehousing, logistics, and importing is a huge headache for a lot of people, and they don't realize it. If they could really free up that time and do something else, it really could help them out a lot with their business.
Can you give us some estimates, some numbers, or maybe some things that people should be aware of in that breakdown of what you're actually paying in fees to Amazon?
So that's a huge factor today, especially with Amazon's new IPI, Inventory Performance Index, that's, I think, effective since last year, July. A lot of people didn't realize that, hey, I'm bringing in a container or 10 pallets of goods, and everything's labeled. I send everything into Amazon. Oh, I don't need a warehouse. I don't need a storage. At Amazon will take everything from me. A lot of people don't realize if you sell through is not the greatest. You're paying a lot on storage. Eventually, Amazon will restrict you from sending in new products if you have too much inventory there, and they restrict you because your sell-through is not good. And then a lot of people don't realize Q4, how much they get charged per pallet. So I'll give you an example number. Like we charge $15 a month, for example, for pallet storage. Amazon charges roughly for the same pallet around $34 a month all year round. Q4, they charge around $146 a pallet to storage. So if you're not sure you're gonna sell that, and if it is not selling there, make sure it's not there, because first of all, you're paying a lot of more money for Amazon, and you might hurt your IPI. And if you fall under 350, you're screwed.
Do you have any examples of customers that were making some very large logistic mistakes that you were able to make some drastic changes in their business that helped them?
Sure. We have one company that sells like blankets and like basically baby products. He had his own warehouse for 3 years. He just closed his warehouse 2 months ago. And he says he has a savings of around $30,000 a year now by just outsourcing everything to us. So that's huge for him. He says he has now more time. He's going to work now on new lines. He doesn't have to be busy with the warehouse workers, with unloading, storaging, shipping out product. We do everything for him. And he said like that's a huge savings. So it's $30,000 on dollar amount. But if you as a CEO or a CFO or COO, executive of a company, your time is a lot of value. So you could value yourself at $200-$300 an hour. Some people value that more. If you have to be busy with a lot of this low-end work of warehousing and logistics and things like that, it's really not important, but it's important to your business, but it's not important to you. You could have someone else do it for way cheaper. Really value that time that you can accomplish way more.
How do you decide what to keep in-house versus what to outsource or do remote?
I learn as I go, really. Something that I feel like I need to do because I'm good at it, sometimes I'll keep it to myself. But if something, I think it through and I realize like, hey, like you don't have to do that. You could have an outsider do that. So it's hard to say an example, but for us now with logistics, we still have everything in-house. We still didn't do the VAs because my father's the owner. We're not there yet to decide to outsource the logistics part to VAs. But I'm definitely going to go down that route, and it probably will help us a lot by outsourcing some parts of our company that we don't have to do in-house here in New York, and we can do it overseas. But on the gift basket company, it's like it's going well, so I'm not really focused that much on it. It's one time a year, so probably in a month from now I'll be busy with that.
Makes sense. Well, any advice for people for running a seasonal business like that?
Seasonal business is very risky, so I'll give you one example, one trick, I would say one nugget. Um, the problem with seasonal businesses is that, let's say now in the summer, we're not selling anything, right? So automatically our IPI will fall because you're not having sell through. You have some products in Amazon and you're not doing well, your IPI is falling. And then you might be screwed. You won't be able to send product into Amazon for Q4 when that's when your season is. So if you go to Inventory Performance Index by that dashboard, you'll see an option for restock inventory. You could change, and then if you go on the right side on top, it should say preferences. You click on that. Amazon bases an average Amazon seller that they do 3 turns a year, 3 to 4 turns a year with their goods. You could change that to do 1 turn a year. So automatically, if you have product, and let's say you would sell it over a year, but you won't sell it in 3 months, you could change that to 22 or 25 weeks or 30 weeks, 50 weeks, till 52 weeks, you could change that around. Automatically, Amazon realized, hey, this guy only sells 1 turn a year. He doesn't turn more than 1 turn a year goods. Automatically, your IPI score will shut up because you're good. You're doing well. You're selling once a year. So that's really helps for seasonal sellers.
Love it. Any other tips or advice on hiring and outsourcing on logistics?
Any
tips, any other tips or advice or anything I missed on e-commerce, on hiring, on logistics?
There's one part, maybe logistics, that a lot of sellers don't realize that they could actually have, if they sell product well, they just always, when they import, they import that product, they label it, and then they send everything right away to Amazon. You could do that in China as well. Most suppliers and most freight forwarders have that option today. You could have it labeled and then import it from China direct, delivered into Amazon instead of bringing it to your warehouse, paying that extra money, and then getting it to Amazon. So it's time, money, and that helps out a lot.
Awesome. This has been great. Where can people find out more about you, and what are you most excited about for the rest of the year?
So my website is tacticallogistic.com, logistic without an S. You could, in the bottom of the website, you can see, you can basically inquire for information. If you sign up there, I'll get back to you right away within 24 hours. What's exciting, the tariffs is a big deal now. So a lot of people have a lot of questions. A lot of people have a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen, what's going on, how they could get around things, how they could work things around. So definitely we have a lot of such calls and emails. So we're there to help them. If they have any questions, anybody can reach out and I'll be happy to help them with that.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too, Nathan. Take care. Talk to you soon.